This is Into Sports. I'm Evan, and we got Thanksgiving 2019, 3 NFL games Thursday. It's going to be a great day of football, and I'm here to predict all of the games and give you my analysis and insight. So here we go. First game, 12:30 p.m. Chicago Bears 5-6 at the Detroit Lions, who are 3-7-1. The Bears are 3.5-point favorites, very low over/under. And let's look at the yards per play, because this is actually a stat I like a lot. Chicago, 4.4 yards per play, which is 31st in the league. We know Trubisky is limited, not a lot of offense going on with the Bears. Now Detroit is at 5.8, which is 10th in the league. And you may say, how are they 3-7-1? But the thing is, Stafford is out for this game. And in the last 3 games, which have been Jeff Driscoll games at quarterback, they've been at 5.1. which would be 23rd on the season. But the reason Chicago is at 5-6 with a 31st offense is their opponent's yards per play. 4.9, which is 5th best in the league. Detroit, abysmal defense, 5.9, 26th in the league. I talked about Stafford out. Jeff Driscoll, hamstring injury, is questionable to play in the game. If he's not able to go, it would be David Blau, the 3rd string quarterback. I do not know who that is, so I'm not going to put a lot of confidence in David Blau. Now, last meeting, Chicago won 20-13. That was at Soldier Field. That was Driscoll's first start. Detroit, they're very reliant on the big play. And without Stafford, and potentially with Driscoll or Blau, it's not the same offense. Galladay, Marvin Jones, Stafford, so many 55-yard throws just down the field, bombing it. He's a gunslinger. Not a lot of offense without him. They're dependent on him. Both teams, they want to establish the run. Now, Bo Scarborough, without Kerryon Johnson, is the new Detroit lead back. 18 for 98 on the ground against Washington. Not bad. But I question Detroit's motivation in this game without Stafford. Have they kind of thrown the towel on the season? They're only 3-7-1. There's not a lot to play for. Now it is Thanksgiving and they are at home. But Matt Patricia, I don't think he really ignites the troops. So I'm going to take Chicago to win this 17-13. And I'll give you my key matchup here. It's going to be David Montgomery, Bears running back, versus the Lions front 4. Both of them have been bad. Detroit is 24th in run defense on the season. And over the last 3 games, David Montgomery only 2.6 yards per carry, which is subpar, but this is a low-scoring game. It's a defensive battle, even though Detroit has a bad defense. This is not the best game. Like I said, 17-13 Chicago. Let's move on. Because Buffalo at Dallas, 4:30 p.m. This is a much better game. Buffalo's coming in at 8-3, their best mark for a long time. Dallas only at 6-5. But they are 6.5-point favorites, and it's at 7, depends on where you look. Yards per play. Buffalo, 5.5, 19th. We know that Josh Allen is kind of limited at quarterback. He's not necessarily a pocket passer, likes to scramble around, but he's been better the last few games. And Dallas, this may surprise you, but they are first in yards per play at 6.6. This offense is very quality. Now, yards per play allowed, Buffalo, they win games defensively, only allowing 4.8 yards per play, which is 3rd best in the league. Dallas, 8th at 5.1. Now, the thing about Dallas defense is they don't force turnovers. Only 4 interceptions on the season. And if they're going to win this game, I think they're going to need to intercept Josh Allen, who at the beginning of his career, at the beginning of the season, he was a little bit turnover worthy with the football, making a lot of not smart decisions, trying to jam it into tight windows down the field. But now he's taking his check down, and I like what I'm seeing at Allen a little bit more. And Dallas, they haven't beat a team with a winning record this season. All of their 6 wins have come against teams that had, I think, even or losing record on the season. Can they get that first win? We'll see. Now, these are 2 very physical teams. The line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line, both are strong. This will be a good battle at the line of scrimmage. Both teams want to run the football. Ezekiel Elliott, Devin Singletary, and the coaching battle. It's a check mark in the Buffalo Bills box. Sean McDermott, I think he's an underrated head coach. this team is an 8-win team. And you look at their roster on paper with a young quarterback, and it's like, maybe they're at that 6-win mark, but they've won 8 games. And now, Dallas, there's a reason their coach is on the hot seat, and that seat is really heating up. So Chris Sims, NBC Sports, he said it better than I can. He's going to talk about Jason Garrett's coaching against the Patriots.
This is part of coaching too. Did Dallas not read the weather report all week? Now it's 3rd and 1. You're the Dallas Cowboys. You have 5 franchise offensive linemen.
And the highest paid running back.
And Zeke Elliott, who's made for 3rd and 1.
Yep.
Patriots have 2 defensive linemen on the field. Run the ball. Again, it's in a monsoon.
Yeah, right?
You'd think you would want to rely on the run game, especially today. And then, to end it all, the worst thing of all, more than anything, is the kicking the field goal, the 13-6.
Yeah.
That just made no sense at all. That was a bonehead decision.
And he said it well. It's multiple times in that game. It's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3. And they're throwing the ball in a monsoon, heavy winds, 40, 30-degree temperatures, with a $90 million running back that they just paid in the offseason, and 5 Pro Bowl caliber offensive linemen. And then the decision by Garrett to kick the field goal when they were down 7, just to cut it to 4 with only 6 minutes left in the game. That's it. Well, we're going to have to see what happens in this game, because Jerry Jones has made it clear that this seat is heating up, and we're going to see if the Dallas Cowboys players respond for Jason Garrett or if they crumble. I tend to lean that they will be motivated by the fact that their coach is on the hot seat, but we will see. Other thing I want to say, John Brown, Buffalo Bills wide receiver. He's a speedster, big time speed on the outside. Is he going to be able to hit the big play against this Dallas defense to kind of open up the game for Josh Allen? He's hit it the last 2 or 3 games. And Buffalo, strong against the tight end. So Jason Witten at home on Thanksgiving in a tough matchup. I tend to think that the second leading pass catcher on Thursday is going to be Randall Cobb and Michael Gallup, and we won't see as much Witten. Now, my important matchup here: Tre'Davious White versus Amari Cooper. Bills top 5 corner in the league in my opinion, and Tre'Davious White really underrated. And Amari Cooper last week against, I believe, the best corner in the NFL, Stephon Gilmore, 0 receptions for 0 yards. And last week for Tre'Davious White against Cortland Sutton, Denver's #1 wide receiver, Tre'Davious White caught as many footballs as he allowed receptions. 1 reception, 1 interception against Cortland Sutton. Now, Amari Cooper's a lot better at home. His home road splits heavily favor the home matchup. I don't know why, but it's just a thing. And Buffalo does play a lot of zone, so we're not going to see like one-on-one on an island as much as we saw maybe with New England and Stephon Gilmore. And if Dallas is serious about this, about getting to the playoffs, they have to win this game. Because Eagles, as bad as they've been, 5-6 record, they have a really easy schedule. And whoever finishes second in the NFC East is not going to be in the wild card. I think that's clear. So Dallas, they got to win this game. I think they will. 24-18. I agree with the spread here at 6.5. I wouldn't bet on any of these games, by the way. Thanksgiving, I tend to agree with the spread, point spread by Vegas. I think it's kind of lower scoring. We have 2 really solid defenses, but it should be a very entertaining game. Now let's go to the primetime game. 8:20 o'clock, NBC. New Orleans Saints, 9-2 record at Atlanta Falcons, 3-8. New Orleans, 7-point favorites. It's at 6.5 some places, depending on where you look, just like with Dallas game. Yards per play, New Orleans 9th, Atlanta 16th. Yards per play allowed, New Orleans 10th best, Atlanta 25th best. We know Atlanta defense is not as good, or not nearly as good as their offense. But ever since Dan Quinn gave up the play calling 3 weeks ago, they're 2-1, and they've been a lot better defensively, although they got torched by Jameis Winston last week at home. I think that's going to motivate them a little bit. They won the meeting against the Saints in Week 10, 26-9 in the Dome. That was a whipping. I think Saints are going to be motivated by that. There was 12 Saint penalties in Week 10. The Saints have been one of the most penalized teams in the league. I think they had 130 penalty yards against Panthers. They have to clean that up if they're serious about winning. In Week 10, you may ask why. Well, how did the at the time 1-win Falcons trample the Saints like they did at home? I look at the lack of motivation coming off the bye. They were at home, off a bye, and they were favored. That's normally a spot where the home team kind of lets off a little bit, feels like they have an easy win. And also they abandoned the run game. I look at the poor coaching, lack of discipline. Yeah, I just called Sean Payton out for a poorly coached football game, even though I think he's the second best coach in the league. Belichick obviously at 1. A matchup here. Deion Jones versus Alvin Kamara. Kamara has kind of struggled this year, actually. And where he's really struggled specifically is against Atlanta and Dallas, where they have linebackers like Deion Jones, and for Dallas, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, that can get from boundary to boundary, sideline to sideline very quickly and contest his speed. So I think with Kamara not having as great of a season and playing one of the best underrated linebackers in the league, Deion Jones, I look for maybe a little bit more of a Latavius Murray game in the backfield. For Atlanta, they don't have a run game, especially against a Saints defensive front that's one of the best in the league at stopping the run. Devontae Freeman looks like he will play. There are some key injuries, but it looks like Atlanta's starting running back will be back for this game. Matt Ryan, he's going to have to carry this team because, like I said, there's no run game. There's not a lot of defense going on. It's going to be about him throwing to Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Austin Hooper is out, so he will not have his tight end. And even Russell Gage at wide receiver, he will be one of the guys catching a lot of passes because they're going to have to really sling it. And now both teams were torched last week defensively. The Saints gave up, I think, 31 points against Panthers, and Falcons gave up too many points to count against Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers at home. Because the Atlanta defense, it was trending very nicely after the 2 games that Dan Quinn was no longer calling plays. But then that very weird game, just getting torched by Jameis. So I'm not really sure what to expect from the Atlanta defense. Now, injuries. Already tackled 2 of them. Andrus Peat, because there's a lot of big-time injuries in this game. Andrus Peat, Saints starting guard, is probably going to be out, along with their starting tackle, Teron Armstead. Marshawn Lattimore, number 1 corner. He was limited in practice. I expect him to play. And he would be matched up against Julio Jones, who did not practice on Tuesday. But I do think he will play. A shoulder injury. And Tack McKinley, Falcons defensive tackle. He was limited. He will probably play. Brings me to my key matchup. Marshawn Lattimore, Julio Jones. In week 10 it was, in the last meeting, Julio Jones was 0 receptions for 0 yards until about 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Then Lattimore went out with an injury, and the next play, Julio Jones had a 57-yard reception. If Marshawn Lattimore is not able to play and Julio Jones does play, my score would change probably by quite a bit. I'd even consider giving Atlanta the W, just because Saints secondary without Marshawn Lattimore, their number 1 corner, is just atrocious. We saw too many penalties, well, like holding, pass interference against Panthers, against Atlanta, back in the Week 10 matchup. Leads me to my score, 27-20. I'll take the Saints against the spread. I do not know. I agree with Vegas for the 3rd time with the spread. So I would not bet on these games. And some people might think it will be a little bit higher scoring. But the thing is that this is a divisional game. The teams saw each other 3 weeks ago. So I think that kind of tends to a little bit of a lower scoring game. And I do not expect the Saints to blow out the Falcons. Some people are kind of expecting that. A lot of people are saying high scoring, but I'm going to go low scoring and pretty tightly contested. I think all 3 of these games are going to be pretty good. The Lions-Bears game is going to be a bad watch just because how abysmal the offenses are. Like I already said, Trubisky versus either Driscoll or Blau. Doesn't matter. Hideous either way. But the second 2 games are going to be pretty good. So I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving watching football after hearing these predictions. I'm Evan. Thank you guys for watching. Maybe subscribe. Also, Hard Count, the Hard Count on YouTube. I would check it out. Spencer, he's been on the podcast. That is his podcasting channel. So I'd recommend that. And anyway, I'm Rose Evan. I'm out. Peace.